Hello YouTube, everybody listening. My name is Alshara, and I wanted to talk about some of the things that I think we all can sort of relate to as spiritual people. Most of you, if not all of you, are aware now that there is a spiritual presence on Earth. More specifically, it's more to do with a spiritual presence of thought rather than a spiritual presence of action, although this thought is sort of the seed process that leads to action and has led to action. Well, we can call this thought sections or partitions of a vision that has actually been started quite a long time ago. Some people might call this karmic debt, some people call this human understanding, and some people call this personal awakening. Well, regardless of whatever you call it, the fact is that these partitions, they do have a purpose. And the purpose of each partition is to guide and move the actual vision into reality by manifesting it from thought. Now, how this is done is simply mostly to do with information, and then we take this information and conduct material research and studies on it. And the people who do this information are people we generally refer to as indigos, lightworkers, starseeds, angelics, and so on, each playing a different part of the larger puzzle. The game works essentially like this. You get enlightened and you tell others about it. While that goes viral, you start playing an important part in what you feel is an active part of your community. And it doesn't matter what you play a part in as long as your contribution is recognized. Once this collective recognition is expanded upon, it grows into larger projects. Currently, the Serious Disclosure movie, the Solar Revolution movie that's out now, both very popular movies, we start to see a global shift. Now, we're not going to notice things materially right away. That's, inevitable. But what I think we are going to notice is a big change in not only consciousness, but awareness in the areas of life that is essentially a global issue. What I mean, essentially, is that if this awareness becomes big enough, and if it is maintained and sustained by the people who's actually guiding it, leading it, being a project anchor, in other words, we start to see two things form. Now, the first thing we see is people in higher positions start to notice things and start wanting to change things, like we see, whether it be a stage setup or reality. The fact is that it's noticed. That's all that really matters. And the other change is that this higher notice brings about either one of two realities. The first reality is that change happens quicker, and the other reality is change is challenged by an opposing force, a force that wants us to remain where we are. The important thing to realize is that this force, this, you could say, invasive force, cannot be held inevitable if we don't allow it to, and that is the reason why a collective is so important, to try and change this, at least on this world, so that we can grow together consciously to create the reality we wish to live in. There are many changes happening, some that we can control and others that we can't. But the important thing is that there's three types of changes that we need to be aware of, and there's only one type of change that we can make a difference in directly. And that is subjective change, the first and foremost change that we're aware of when we start to, you could say, get on the same page as each other. The second change is the collective change. The collective change is everybody working together to either be on the same page, to work at the same objective, or to take different angles and end up at a same objective if the objective is the same, or if they would rather work for their own objective, which also is possible. Now the third type of change is objective change, and this is controversial since it directly involves everybody's collective and subjective future. It also involves the interference of anything that may hinder us from achieving this objective, such as a distraction or a distortion in what we feel to be reality. Now this reality can change if our objective changes, and so it's very important to keep our objective anchored and focused in what it is that we would like to accomplish. Now, having said all that, some of the things that we're noticing now is people wanting to be sovereign, people wanting to separate, people not wanting to unify, as nothing really has happened significantly to the material world to be able to do that, to be able to be a part of something that hasn't really manifested yet. Well, the important thing is to be patient, because the universe does have certain elements that can activate regardless of where these elements appear, that will inevitably make it possible to allow this change to happen. So for example, if you need to manifest money in your life, one of the things you'd want to do would be to manifest a change in your life. That could be as simple as talking to the friend next door to you, talking to the pastor at your local church, talking to a family member, anybody who has the ability to help, a potential even. That's all you need. And if you don't have that, I suggest you start looking, because it will come to you if you ask for it. It's a good principle that's actually been taught by the Christian Bible. Ask and you shall receive. Unfortunately, it's not taught in the way that it was objectively meant to be taught, which is ask what change you want to the person that you would like to notify, and that person may or may not give you the lead to where you need to go, but don't be discouraged, as it will manifest sometime soon. And because that's a variable soon, you simply have to wait and see, although the key here is that you're never without something. You have an experience for a reason, and if you don't know what it is, you shouldn't be expected to know everything, A, because you don't need to know, or B, because it's simply not time for you to know. Now, many people might disagree with this because it is illogical thinking. However, this planet isn't perfect, and we can't change what we don't know overnight. So, with that said, everything is a tool, and we are a part of it. Whether we like it or not, we have to change what our reality is going to look like. Otherwise, we'll have no say at all in what life does for us, and it may sometimes be good and other times be bad. But the key here is you're not an enslavement to anybody, and you're definitely a part of what I would call the beginning of a new earth.